It doesn't matter what you do physically in a religious building, okay? I wasn't doing that thinking, oh, God's gonna bless me because I'm doing this. No, remember that you need to detach and deconstruct that same performative mindset that you had in religion because you cannot apply it to spiritual things. You as a human being are exactly the same as what Yeshua was when he walked this earth. This being literally stood in front of me and said this to me, and people be confused. They'd be like, bro, are you a wizard? Are you a juju man? Like, what's going on here? But then read the Bible and their prophets, evangelists are all having these same encounters. So let's talk about this, okay? Oftentimes religion can be very performative. By performative, I mean that people put on a front, they change who they are, they change how they appear, and they act a certain way to try and gain favor with leadership. It's something that you have to learn to let go of. Also, people then take that and apply it to God. They think that it's their actions and things that they do that then causes them to find favor with the divine, which is also not true. It's not necessarily about what you do. It's purely about the relationship that you have with said beings and the intimacy that you have with them. And intimacy isn't gained by reading a book about someone. Intimacy isn't gained by doing things that you think please that person. Intimacy is gained by sitting down and spending time with that person directly. This is why you can spend 30 years in church, stacking chairs, running around, playing instruments, and still not know God for yourself, and then dedicate a month or two just to being still and silent and opening their senses up and encounter God directly and just have a depth of relationship that is, to the normal average religious person, insane. This is why you can have conversations and say, oh, this being literally stood in front of me and said this to me, and people be confused. They'd be like, bro, are you a wizard? Are you a juju man? Like, what's going on here? But then read the Bible and their prophets, evangelists are all having these same encounters. So let's talk about this, okay? Real talk. Point number one. It doesn't matter what you do physically in a religious building, okay? Real talk. When it comes to your relationship with God directly, all of the things that you're doing in a physical building, they don't benefit that relationship. I'm not saying you shouldn't do them. I genuinely enjoy playing instruments, at church. I genuinely enjoy helping out. Recently my cousin had a speaking engagement and I was just in the kitchen helping out because I just love to. It's just fun, and that's fine. I wasn't doing that thinking, oh, God's gonna bless me because I'm doing this. No, you're not a slave. I know a lot of people see themselves as servants. Separate conversation. With me, I'm a son. A son has access to the father just because of who he is, not because of what he does. So whether or not I stack chairs or not, whether or not I serve or not, doesn't impact what I could do spiritually or my relationship with God at all. And so when you are making that transition out of religion into the spiritual things and the more experiential things, please remember that you need to detach and deconstruct that same performative mindset that you had in religion because you cannot apply it to spiritual things. For my Christians, Old Testament, Elijah, Mount Carmel, you have all of the prophets of Baal running around, cutting themselves, screaming, hollering, doing all of that stuff, trying to get their God's attention. Elijah, from a place of intimacy, speaks to the God and calls fire down, and then the fire comes down. That's two completely different models. What I see now in the modern day, often in churches, you have a whole lot of hooting and hollering, running around, making all of this noise, and no actual intimacy. No, I'm not saying that all that kind of stuff is bad, but I'm just saying it's about where it comes from. Some people genuinely are just expressing that love from their hearts, okay, which is perfectly fine. But a lot of people, and I've seen it, like, you don't need to act a certain way to gain the approval of others or your pastor and think that then relates to how God sees you, because God knows who you are. You don't have to be shouting and screaming. You can be sat there just having a conversation with God directly. No shouting, no screaming. Right? You can also do up the shouting, the screaming, all of that kind of stuff. You don't have to feel that pressure. I used to feel that pressure. Josh, you're not praying loud enough. Those prayers a week, they didn't pass the ceiling, all of this kind of stuff. You don't need to subscribe to all of that. Intimacy is intimacy. I don't have to shout to get my brother's attention. Like, just sit down and talk to him. I can call him, I can message him, we can talk. For me personally, I believe in mentorship and learning from people, being under people, but you have to draw the line when it comes to them worshipping that person. Now, this isn't just for Christianity, this is for other religions as well. Worshipping humans is never a good idea. And I say that because you're taken away from your own potential and your own capacity. You're limiting yourself. There is no human being on earth that is greater than you. None, not a single one. And so when you mentally place someone above you and put yourself in the position of a servant, you're limiting yourself to a degree. Now, let me explain the difference in mindset, because I have mentors, I have teachers that I am under, but I do not worship them. I do not see them as like these great people that I could never be like the God of this person, the God of that person. I listen to, every word that these people say and that's final and all of that. No. Okay. People need to understand, right? You as a human being are exactly the same as what Yeshua was when he walked this earth, right? Everything that is within you was within Yeshua. Yeshua had awareness, you lack awareness. And most of the time as well, what's gone on is that people have allowed a system to corrupt their brains to the point where they believe that connecting directly with their creator is wrong. You have people that hear from God and then go to their pastor to verify if what they heard from God is right. That's what I mean by the chain is incorrect, okay? But, I just wanted to let you guys know it's all right. You can still be in church. You can still be in these places and be on this spiritual path up until when you know you're supposed to leave. If you know you're supposed to leave, then get out. If you're not sure if you're supposed to stay there and you're feeling unsure, it's most likely that you're not, but check for yourself, hear for yourself, and move accordingly. But I just wanted to remind you guys and let you guys know you don't have to be performative. You don't have to try and gain people's approval. Man's approval and God's approval are two different things. Everyone in your family can think you want to be a medic, and then you become a medic, and because your family love you and you're getting all of these praises from them, you think, yeah, I'm doing the right thing, but God wanted you to be a fisherman. People's approval and the approval and assistance of the divine are two completely different things. And until you learn to tap into the divine, you'll always be lost to a certain extent. You may have money, you may have success, but you'll still be lost because you won't be fully in your purpose and you won't have the full evolution that you can have. The majority of people will unfortunately die. You don't have to, but the majority of people have accepted death as a necessity or a certain thing, which means that they will experience it. When that does happen, you don't just go into nothing. I'm sorry to all the people that believe that you do. You gain more consciousness of your other spiritual forms, your soul and your spirit, and you live on. Okay, there are higher parts to yourself, more than just the physical. I say this to say that your purpose is what brings satisfaction across all three bodies, not just one. Kind of diverted there, but I just want to reinforce that same important point again and again and again and again and again to you guys. Please, 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 please. You don't need to be performative. You don't need to put on a show for anyone. You don't even need to put on a show for God. Just spend time. Come, be raw, be real. Do your thing, man. That's where happiness and true joy comes from.